Hey. How's it going? Welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show. We had
What
an
up,
epic,
everybody?
epic showdown with Golden State and the Grizzlies, with the Warriors pulling it out like I thought they would. Um, but welcome everybody. We're gonna try to get into some of the play-in obviously tonight, and then also get into a little bit of some of the playoff matchups that we have coming into. Going into the play-in game on Friday tomorrow, going into the play-in game on Friday, and then hopefully looking at some of the future playoff stuff. And then also get into a new segment called "Something Happened Today," which is all about injuries, and it's all about kind of some players that might be a little concerned going into the playoffs there. But how you doing, Emac?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. It was a wild night in terms of the game. It kind of reminded me of the Warriors and Clippers matchup just a couple of days ago. Definitely not surprised of the winner. I think most people thought the Warriors were going to handle business, but after watching that first half, I was like, oh man, here we go. It's going to be another blowout like the Orlando game earlier.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to see that the Grizzlies were definitely gritty. They played a great second half and obviously had a chance to win it, but Chef Curry just was too much. I know he was just too much for the Grizzlies at the end there, and I know we're going to get into a little bit, obviously the game, but just overall it was a fun game, and I think Houston and Golden State obviously is going to be the 7-2 matchup, and that should be an exciting series.
Yeah. That's yeah, like you were saying in the first half, I was like, man, I can't believe we're gonna have another blowout in the
Yep.
7-8 series. I couldn't understand why they had Zach Edey in there so much.
Right.
However, he did dominate the boards. He made a lot of plays in that second half, kind of third, fourth quarter, which kind of kept him in the game. So credit to Zach Edey for kind of battling out there. I thought he was a little bit slow footed, especially in the first half. And one of the problems he has is, I mean, this is something that you teach all bigs, right? You never want to bring the ball down low because everybody will
Hmm.
start hacking at it. And for some reason, he just kept bringing it down low instead of just holding it up high. I mean, if he holds it up high, I mean, what's that, 9 feet, 9.5 feet or something? You just keep the ball up high. So I have
Oh
no
yeah.
idea why he was bringing it around, and Draymond kept stripping on Moody. Everybody was kind of collapsing on him, and he was having a little bit of struggle. But man, dude came in, still played really well. He played 33 minutes, had 17 boards. Um, he's a throwback big in this league, and so it's a little difficult of a matchup when you got a smaller Warriors team.
Oh yeah, like throughout the game, I was just thinking, man, like this is just not the matchup to have two big guys in there. Obviously, just 2 days ago, the Clippers were pretty successful with Zubac, so I was kind of
Yeah.
thinking, obviously, it's not a like a blanket statement where hey, you got to play small against
Hmm.
Golden State, but obviously, Zubac is a tenured NBA player now. He's improved tremendously. They're definitely in a different class, at least compared to Edie at this
For
point.
sure.
So, but you know what? I was like through 2.5 quarters. I think I was talking to you, like, man, like this is the reason they're losing. But like you said, he played well. Grizzlies out rebounded the Warriors 50-39. I think that's going to be an issue for them maybe going forward. I think I
Yeah.
saw the other night that the Warriors had like 23 rebounds against the Clippers. That was like the third or fourth worst game in rebounds in history. And so
Yeah.
there's definitely a theme there, and I think it could eventually hurt them. But I think because they really set the tone for that first half with him out there, it propelled them to a victory because they had a little bit
Yeah.
of a cushion. So when Memphis made their run, it
Yeah.
was like a pretty even game because of that lead they had in the first half.
Yeah. I mean, I think they definitely cut it close, and I think they were down by one when Ja got hurt, right?
Yep.
Sprained his ankle, but they kept fighting and they stayed in the game. And Ja wasn't really the same when he kind of came back in there. Just didn't have the same explosiveness as he would normally have. So I think that was a difficult thing in general for them to kind of come back and try to win that game. And the Warriors just thought they did what they thought they would do, right? Just kind of that veteran leadership of Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy Butler. Playoff Jimmy.
Play in and play off, Jimmy.
Play in, play off, whatever you want to call him. He always answers the call. I think I was reading a stat that in the regular season, he's at about 18.3. When he gets into the playoffs, he's around 21.3 points per game. So he definitely ups his game. We've all seen it over the years, especially with his time in Miami, getting to the finals and all that. So that's why the Warriors, even though they're going to be a 7 seed, are still one of my top 5 contenders for NBA championship. Just because when you have a player like Steph Curry, like Jimmy Butler, and the veteran leadership of Draymond Green, it gives you a chance to win. And then that next series, now that we know for sure they're going to be playing Houston, so you got a 2-7 matchup, which is normally you don't think much of it.
What? You got your wish. We finally know Houston's opponent.
You know, we started this show, the Hoops Rehab show, about 2 weeks ago, and you know, I'm not trying to disrespect Houston, but I thought if the Warriors get into that 7 seed, they are going to have a hell of a chance against the Houston Rockets. And in fact, I thought they would win the series. So I'm still going to be on the camp that the Warriors are going to win that series. I do think it's going to go probably 6, at least 6 games, possibly 7, because I think Houston will at least they've been proven to win games, right? So they've been tough as a team in general, and they do have some tough players. I just think overall the Warriors are going to use their leadership, use their experience, and probably wrap it up in 6 in the Bay. If I had to make my prediction right now, what do you say about that series?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see Golden State getting one of those first 2 games for sure in Houston, and then applying the pressure. You know, Houston's going to have to get one of those 2 back in San Francisco just to get it at a 2-2 clip. And I think if it gets to that point, I see a 7-game series. And it is a 7-game series, and it would be in Houston, but I probably would still give the advantage to Golden State in that case. And again, we've talked about it before. I know it's probably seems disrespectful, but we're kind of just coming from a place where Houston hasn't done it yet. We haven't seen them. They were the 11th seed last year, and now they're the 2nd seed. They've had a tremendous season. Quite frankly, they just played the Warriors in a big game where Warriors really needed to win to stay out of the play-in. And Houston needed it to get the 2 seed, and Houston won. So maybe that's some takeaway. I think the Clipper game and the Memphis second half, it kind of does show me that there's something you can probably gain an advantage of against the Warriors, you know, and kind of not really clear exactly like, you know, what it is, but just obviously having like some, you know, stud out there. I mean, with obviously the Clippers at Kawhi and James Harden, but I feel like they can be had, but I don't think Houston's going to be that team to beat them, but we'll see. I mean, that's why they play the games, and maybe Houston will prove us wrong, and maybe they'll win a series.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the Warriors have some kinks in their armor. They struggle at times in games with just like keeping their foot on the pedal, right? You know, like they kind of let people back in. You know, I don't know if they get lazy during the game, but just there's certain periods in the game where you're just like, oh man, the Warriors should take advantage of this and handle business. So I do think there's some of that, and they are granted a 7 seed, right? And so we've gone over the whole top 3 seed, and only 76 out of 78 championship NBA champions have been a top 3 seed. So chances are slim that they will win it all. However, if you're looking at a 7 seed, it kind of reminds me of how the Lakers were a 7 seed, right? So when the Lakers 2 years ago were a 7 seed and they got to the Western Conference Finals, you're like, oh, they have a chance. They could possibly win a championship. but and then they got Wally Womp by Denver there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in general, this is not your average 7 seed, right? This is not your Orlando Magic team facing the Boston Celtics. Okay,
No, not at all.
no, I'm not disrespecting Orlando. Again, I'm just saying you got a veteran-led team who has tons of championship experience, playing a Houston Rockets team that doesn't have really any experience. So you got to put those factors together and just kind of like evaluate that. But it's gonna be a hell of a series, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like with the Warriors, like I think their size, and they are a 7 seed. And we were just talking about obviously Zach Edey on some of the things that he wasn't doing, but also we mentioned some of the things he was doing was getting on the boards, getting some offensive rebounds, putbacks. It was funny, like seeing him, like he was pretty much guarding Gary Payton when Gary was in, and so it's just crazy to see. And so I think a little bit of size, like, will hurt him. I mean, we know that as the Lakers, when we had Anthony Davis, that's when we were at our best against the Warriors. This Laker team, if they end up facing each other in the second round, we'll see if both teams are lucky to get there. We'll obviously talk about that, and it'll be kind of small ball versus small ball in a sense. So the funny thing is that the Warriors were 0-3 coming in, and they're playing games so far. Their first playing game was actually against Memphis at home in 2021. And so that was actually for the 8 seed, and Warriors lost and missed the playoffs. And then Memphis and the Warriors played the next season in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. And it was a tough series, and Warriors won it 4-2. And that was the year Warriors won the championship, beating Boston, of course. And so I don't know, like I kind of wanted to just pose a question about Memphis. So Memphis, they just to give you the last 4 or 5 years, right? So they made the playoffs, as I mentioned, beating the Warriors. They were an 8 seed. You wouldn't expect them to beat a 1 seed, right? And then the next year they won a round, and then they lost to Golden State in a tough 6-game series. Then they had a great season. They were the 2 seed, ran into the Lakers and lost. And I feel ever since then, obviously we know about John Morant's suspension and everything, but I feel then they really haven't been quite the same team. And the question I pose, and I know there's probably not one direct answer, but I'm looking at a guy like Desmond Bane, for example. So he was such a crucial piece to the team. He had averaged pretty consistently, or the year past, about 24 points, and now he was down to 19. So I'm just wondering if you see any regression from him. Do you think it's coaching? Like, I wonder what it is. Like, why have they regressed so much?
Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, I think, when they lost Dylan Brooks, I think they just lost a lot of their toughness, right? No matter what you felt about Dylan Brooks, he brought like a mental toughness to that team. And just that grind, they talk about grind city and all that stuff in Memphis, but like he brought that toughness to them. And ever since he's been gone, it just doesn't seem like it's there. Obviously they've been dealing with the Morant kind of saga, been suspended a couple times. And so I think that's weighed on the team, as far as their core unit, like, just in general, and like you said, Desmond Bane is like, it seems like he regressed this year as far as like you'd think he would take that next step. He averaged 23 last year, and you'd think he'd kind of be up in that 24, 25 point range. And he plays most games. He was out a little bit, but he plays a lot of games, right? So, in Jaren Jackson Jr., right? He's a great player, and I think he's made some leaps in this league, and he's a hell of a defensive player, and he does have some good offensive game too as well. But I think it's just time that they're probably going to have to make a change, and it's hard to say what that looks like. But either they're going to have to bring in a more of a superstar player to play along with Ja, and then trade like a Desmond Bane and package a couple other players with that and some draft picks. To just get a player that's all-star caliber, elite type of player, right? So I know they were interested in giving Kevin Durant at one point in the trade, kind of the trade deadline, but somebody like that, right? They have to get somebody that
Yep.
can take him over to the next level. And then obviously now they have to find a new coach. And that's going to be just kind of change in philosophy of what they've been playing in the past.
Yeah, no, good points. I think like they weren't able to re-sign Dylan Brooks. That was
Yeah.
just obviously he signed a big deal with Houston, and
Yeah.
obviously there's the salary cap implications, but that's probably another example of perhaps like small market, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
being able to keep up. The funny thing is when they lost him, I thought like Marcus Smart was going to be an upgrade. I was like, oh wow, you're going to get like Dylan
Yeah.
Brooks on steroids. Like he's a little bit better offensively. Obviously that didn't work out. He's not even on the team right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, going back to Desmond Bain, I don't want to make it just about him because I know it's like a whole team effort. But yeah, like this is in his career, he averaged 9 points, 18 points, 21 and a half, 24. And so yeah, as you said, you often expect like that next level. And again, there
Mm-hmm.
could be just maybe a different style offense, like God knows,
Yeah.
even though they were a pretty high scoring team. Um, it just made me think, and and he had a great game tonight, so I don't want to just pin it all on him.
Yeah.
He was balling tonight. Obviously, Jaw was injured, spraining that ankle, and I was really surprised to see him still out there, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I was just thinking because I saw Curry. I think he must have re-aggravated his hand too, because I saw him crunched over on the sideline, and that just goes to show like sure, you get into play-in, you can make the playoffs, but man, like that extra game, like you never know what could go wrong.
Totally.
And if Memphis would have been in the top six, John Morant
Yeah.
wouldn't have played. He wouldn't have hurt his ankle. I'm sure it's not going to be that great for Friday. And so I don't know. It's just interesting, and you really realize like it is so important to stay out of the play-in.
Yeah. I mean, you're taking a risk, right? So it's an extra game or even two, just to
Yep.
kind of get into that 7-8 seed. So, um, yeah, great points there. I think, Memphis is going to have a tough game on Friday. Like, man, obviously Sac and Dallas play, and I said before, I think Dallas is kind of going to win that game. I think AD is going to take them over the top. And then
Yep.
I can see, if Dallas gets that win, they get a little momentum. And then on that Friday game with Jaw's not 100%, I mean, he he's what makes the Grizzlies move, right? So if he's not
Yep.
100%, and you got a healthy AD and a dominant AD, you could almost see the Dallas getting the 8th seed and then having them play OKC. So, um, yeah, hopefully, his when he wakes up in the morning, it's not too swollen and not too painful. But it didn't look too good, and he didn't look too like his normal self when he returned. So we'll kind of have to play it by ear, and kind of I know he's going to probably be listed as day by day in the morning. So
Yeah, so he didn't like, and I know we'll get into like injuries and things a little bit later,
yeah,
but he like compared to like Brunson when he hurt his ankle, I
yeah,
mean, he could not go. He shot the free throws, but he went out.
yeah,
John Morant definitely was not the John Morant that we know in that fourth quarter because
yeah.
of that ankle sprain. And so, was it? I mean, do you feel like it was kind of just adrenaline? Was it a different type of ankle sprain?
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, he didn't get it fully like how I mean Jalen Brunson just came out and put full weight on that ankle and turned about 90 degrees, right? So he
okay,
kind of just got that normal type of kind of twist turn of the ankle, where it's like really quick and sudden. The only thing that concerned me was that it seemed like he was reaching towards more of the front part of his shin. So it wasn't typically like on the outside; it was kind of a little bit higher. So sometimes like that can be either dealing with like more of an impingement versus a sprain, and that's what concerns me as far as all the impact and every time he's been movement on there, he could just get irritated pretty easily.
right.
So, but I would imagine, I mean, I can tell I was trying to follow the camera, but I think they tried to tape it up at least so he can come out there with some support and play the rest of the fourth quarter. But yeah, moving forward, man, it's going to see how it responds overnight, and probably going to be getting treatment a lot around the clock the next coming days.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he was definitely a warrior out there, and so to speak, and he
Yeah.
no pun intended. He,
Gotcha.
he battled, but it was just a little bit too much of obviously Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry,
Yeah,
and
for
they
sure.
got it done, and they'll get the rest for a few days now, and we don't know the time yet. We're gonna take a look, but Sunday they're gonna start their series against
Yeah,
the Houston Rockets. So,
yeah,
um,
that's going to be a good one. So,
yep.
then we had another 7-8 game in the East Coast. Just kind of,
Mm,
you know, not that I was poo-pooing in the East Coast plans, but I kind of talked about this last show. I wasn't going to spend too much time on the East playing series, but uh, Atlanta tried to make it a game in the third quarter.
yep.
Trae Young came through in the third, but then just kind of they. I was looking at Atlanta's team and I realized, man, they just don't have that much talent on the team. Like they have a bunch of
Yeah,
they have
I
some
know.
young guys, but they literally have Trae Young and nobody out there.
Yeah,
I
just
mean, I'm
taking a
sorry,
look.
no, Dyson Daniels is a hell of a player, but he's just super young, right? So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a hell of a defensive player. He's going to be up there in the defensive player of the year, probably at least the top five, top three, and probably
Most improved.
most improved as
Right.
well, right? But he's years from being like a stud in this league. So my question is like, what is Atlanta doing? Number one, because they've traded some pieces away, traded Dejounte Murray away, traded for him, and then traded him away, and then you're just left with Trae Young. So it's going to be interesting to see if Trae Young wants to stay there, or if he's if they're gonna do anything to make a change to this roster.
Yeah, I feel like they're like have like full like reboot like just written all over it.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just because they have like a young guys. I mean, obviously Trey Young is extremely young as well. He's 26 years old, but he's
yeah.
like this is like coming on like prime territory, right? In his prime.
Hmm.
And so I don't know, like I don't think he's like that superstar where you're like, okay, you have like a mix of young guys and you have somebody in his
Hmm.
prime. Like I don't think he's that guy, but I feel like he's also going to probably sit back and say like this team is rebuilding and I might want to take my talents elsewhere. I don't really
Yeah.
know where he's going to be, a good fit, but like obviously there's going to be some suitors for him. And so yeah, I mean, just looking at their roster, like you mentioned, Dyson Daniels. Obviously, they just had the number one pick this
Yeah.
past season, and I mean these guys are playing like playoff games now, right? Playing games, and I think it's going to be a great experience for them going forward. But I don't know. I think it, like I said, got reboot, rebuild written all over it,
Yeah.
and I mean, obviously they could still get the 8 right, but I wouldn't be
Mhm.
surprised if they go down on Friday as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was third quarter was like probably the only entertaining quarter of the game.
Yeah.
Orlando was pretty much in control. Orlando outscored Atlanta 41-22 in the fourth. So Orlando was pretty good defensively, honestly. They got like
Yeah.
pretty good defensive personnel. They're one of the better defensive teams in the league. Obviously, they're missing guys like Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner.
Yeah. I
Um, they're,
mean, they give up the least amount of points in the league, right? So I think they're
oh
number
wow,
one in points per game.
wow.
Now they're at 105.
So there you go.
Point 0.5. So they definitely. I remember hearing that they were the number one defensive team. So, with Orlando winning, right? What do you think as far as like them going to Boston?
Now I think Orlando is going to pose much more of a problem versus
Right.
Boston,
Yeah.
right, than Atlanta would have. I think if it was like the Knicks or something, I don't know, for whatever reason, Trae Young like just like loves playing against the Knicks and just they've had some battles. But with it being just like a championship squad, Boston veteran team, I mean, I don't really see him having too much of a problem with either team. Obviously, I
Yeah.
could, it's got Boston in 5 written all over it. But I think Orlando will pose some problems, and they have to just muck up the game, in my opinion. Keep it
Hmm.
like not that Boston's a good defensive team too, but they shoot
Yeah.
all those 3 pointers, right? And so if Orlando can continue to fly around, switch, obviously try to defend that three as much they can, hey, maybe they can cause a problem. Maybe they can still one in Boston and make it a 6-game series.
Yeah,
I think if it goes 6, I think it's a big accomplishment for Orlando.
yeah,
Obviously, they're going to go into it wanting to win it.
yeah,
But I do think, like the as I mentioned earlier, like Orlando needs all their guys and the likes of Jalen Suggs, Mo
yeah,
Wagner. I mean, you just need those guys against a
yeah.
superior team. And so, what are your thoughts on the series?
Yeah, I mean, I think if they were to have Jalen Suggs, right, he's out for the year.
Yeah,
He's such a great defensive player, especially at that point guard position. I think they're lacking at that point guard position right now. You got Cole Anthony does come in and gives them a good run. Um, so I do like the fact they have two big wings, right? They have Paulo and they have Wagner. And so when you have two guys that can actually get buckets from the wing like that, and your team overall is probably the one of the number one defenses in the league, or at least gives up the least amount of points, that
yeah,
gives you a chance. Yeah, but if they had Jalen, I would give that series a lot more competitiveness to it. Like maybe possibly going 6. I think right now Orlando will at least get one. Like they'll be able to get one with just having that talent, Apollo and Wagner. I think along with the defense. Now, do they push it to a 6 game series? Possibly, but they probably have to go in there and still game 1 in order to make it
probably.
a real series. Like if they go into Boston game 1, get that, then that gives them a little bit of momentum, and you can possibly see that see them coming back like that.
Oop, I
Yeah.
think you're kind of.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
sorry.
good?
Yeah, there was a little bit of delay there, but all right. Oh, sorry about that, guys.
All right. No worries.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like it's yeah, like we kind of both said. Um, Orlando's probably got to have to steal that first one. If they steal that first one, I could see him maybe splitting in Orlando and then it going 6. But if they go down 2-0, I mean, we're gonna start thinking sweep. Of course, they might still be able to get one in Orlando, but it's just one of
Hmm.
those series. Like it's your traditional, what it's always was in the past, your 2-7 matchup. Now, as
Yeah.
of late, with the West being so strong, the 7 has just been. I mean, the last few years, right? The Lakers were the 7 a couple
Yep.
years. Obviously, Golden State this year, and so those again are not your traditional 7 seeds. But
Not anymore.
Orlando, I mean, Orlando, like, don't get me wrong, like, they started off the year really well. They were kind of in the hunt for a 3-4 seed, and definitely injuries took a toll on them, and it really sunk in the standings. And
Hmm.
they've been getting some of their guys back, and they've been playing better ball, hence the game today where they really just took it to Atlanta, and it wasn't even close. But yeah, I'm kind of glad. Like, I know Boston's gonna win, but I'm happy that I feel like I don't know if the series is going to be competitive, but I feel the games are going to be competitive. If that makes sense, I see some
Yeah.
tight games, and the veteran Boston Celtics are probably going to pull some of them out, or most of them out.
Yeah. Great points. I mean, I think they will be competitive games. I don't see Boston just blowing them out every game, right? I think just based on Orlando's defense and some of their sheer talent, we'll get them close in those games. It just Boston's a different breed, man. They're the NBA champions, and they know they're trying to go for the repeat, and they're
Yeah,
trying not to let anything get in their way, right? No matter what you think about them.
and it's so crazy because like they're not being talked about a lot.
No, no, not at
It's
all.
all about the West. It's all about the Lakers,
Yeah.
Warriors. Oh, who's going to beat OKC? And I get it. The West is a lot more compelling, so there is going to be more chatter about it. And it's almost like Boston is so good that like
Hmm.
there's no drama. Like they haven't. I mean, sure they've had some bumps and bruises during the season, but they haven't had like a big losing streak. They haven't had tension
Hmm.
or really like much to kind of debate about on these talk shows and stuff, right? Or on social media world. And so I'm sure they're just like, hey, like keep doing that. Don't talk about us. We're gonna just do our thing. And
Yep.
so yeah, I mean, obviously I'm excited for all the series, but definitely that one, which I believe that will be on Sunday as well. As I think the playing teams are all playing on Sunday. and so we'll get the slate of the schedule soon. But that has like a Sunday morning written all over it, right?
Oh yeah, that's a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see if they have it out yet.
Um,
Oh no, what the heck? Believe it or not,
Night game?
they are
No.
they got the 12:30 slot on Sunday.
Well, I guess the NBA figures people will be busy with Easter for a little bit, so they're going to put the little 12:30 slot with Boston, or they're just giving the nod to the champions to put them in that spot.
I see a little disrespect. Guess what the 10 a.m. game is? Little Sunday 10 a.m.
Cleveland, no.
Okay, sizzle. Okay, see my boys. Woo, the disrespect. Okay.
Oh man, they can't get a prime time slot, huh?
I
Uh,
know.
yeah, those dudes are going to be playing, so they're going to be ready to
Yeah.
go and dominate. Like, what is it? 52 games in the regular season that they won by double digits, right? Because they were at 51. I think they won another one, 52. Um, but that is a hell of a team. And we'll get into the Thunder at some point here, but they are going to be scary in the playoffs.
Oh yeah. I mean, think about it. Like Friday night, they're gonna play those two playing games, and then the
Yeah,
winner is gonna have to travel to Oklahoma and play Sunday
yeah,
morning. Game
yeah.
one, wrap it up.
If
Game
I'm
one, wrap it up.
if I'm a betting man, whatever that spread is, take the spread and some, because that's gonna be a tough
Run with
game
it.
for whoever's gonna go to OKC to try to win that game. So that's gonna be interesting. That's probably why they put it at 10 o'clock.
Yep, I think so to give them that advantage. And then
Yeah.
which I kind of not a big surprise, but the Sunday night kind of like marquee matchup will be Warriors and Rockets.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
that's a good one. So yeah, so we're almost at our full field. Obviously, we got the 9-10 games tomorrow.
Yep.
We touched on it a little bit with Dallas and Sacramento playing, and along with
Yep.
the play-in classic, the usual Chicago Bulls versus Miami Heat. Remember, death, taxes, and the Chicago
And
Bulls, Miami Heat play-in matchup. So
oh yeah,
that's something
oh
else
yeah,
to think about. But yeah, we'll see how
yeah,
tomorrow goes.
yeah. We'll see. I mean, I know we had our picks.
Yep.
I had Dallas coming through, and then had Miami Heat coming through. So we'll see what those 9-10 matchups look like.
Absolutely. I got Dallas and Chicago, so yeah, we'll see who will win and who will keep their season alive
Yep,
for the playing games on Friday.
100%. All right, let's get into our new segment called "Something Happened Today." I don't know
Drum roll, please. Drum roll, please.
if you guys have ever followed me on social media or any of my platforms. I usually start off my injury videos with "Something Happened Today." So we wanted to get into
Say it how you always say it. Something
uh,
happened today.
"Something Happened Today."
There
Right.
you go. That's what I wanted.
There you go. That's what you usually hear. All right, so we'll get into our first kind of news item. Let's talk about Damian Lillard. So there was some like
Yep.
good positive news in that camp, because when you initially heard that Damian Lillard had a DVT blood clot in his calf, you're kind of wrapping him up for the season, just based on what traditionally has happened in the NBA. If somebody has got it in the season, they usually have never come back in that season. So it's great news that basically Shams reported that he's going to miss the start of the NBA playoffs. He didn't really clarify what the start means, but we know that the Bucks are playing the first round against the Pacers, and he's probably going to at least miss the first couple games at least. And in my opinion, it would probably be more of a second round thing if they were to get by the Pacers. I think he still has a lot of hurdles to kind of clear, but from all the info that we have heard, he's had the clot has gotten a lot smaller. He's still on blood thinners, so that's like the major concern as far as like physicality when you're playing. So when you're on blood thinners, like your skin's going to bruise easily. there's always a risk for like internal bleeding, like if you were to take a direct blow or anything like that, like, huge hit. Basketball is not the biggest contact. Like if it's somebody in football, that would be not ideal, right? Getting a helmet to the rib or getting a helmet to the leg or something like that, which could cause some internal bleeding. So I think that's always an area of concern, and that's why it's going to be a big hurdle from the clear to resume everything and come back for these playoffs. But yeah, according to Shams, there's some optimism for his clearance at some point in the playoffs. So it didn't clarify a timeline, but he just said at some point, if they were, in my opinion, would probably advance, that Damian might be able to make it back there.
Yeah, that's good news. I mean, when we first reported it, you'd mentioned there's obviously a good chance he's done out the season, because in every other case, the person's been out pretty much the whole year. Obviously, I think about a week ago, we started hearing some rumblings that he's getting a little better. He might play. And then now we're getting that he is going to miss the beginning of the playoffs, and then he might be available for a deep run if that's what Milwaukee does. And so I'm just kind of curious, because obviously he's got to get, I'm assuming he's getting the clearance of like medicals and all that, but I would imagine there's got to be some kind of ramp. I mean, it's a different type of injury, but like a little bit of, I wonder if he's we don't know, but I wonder if he's exercising. Is he playing? Is he doing 3-on-3s? Or...
Yeah, so Shams clarified that he's increased basketball activity. Okay. Now, defining basketball activity, I'm not too sure, right, as far as what they're saying. That could be he's maybe playing 3-on-3, he's maybe doing 1-on-1, or just doing drills, right? Getting his body right, getting the cardio, which will be important for him. So trying to get that cardiovascular system running for him would be important. So I think we'll probably hear some positive news in the next week or two. Just to see where his status is, but there's some optimism that he'll be back, which is, I guess when they didn't rule him out right away, then that was already optimism, right? Because like Wemby, when he got the blood clot, it was immediately he's out for the season. Right. So with Lillard, they never said that. So either from the beginning, the blood clot was very small and they found it. Which is probably the case, as it being more of a smaller clot, which will be taken care of with blood thinners.
Yeah, it makes sense, and obviously health is first. And if they feel there's any way he can be out there, I'm sure, coming from like a basketball perspective, like for Milwaukee to have really any chance, like they need a pretty damn good Dame out there. Hopefully they can be successful and win a round without him. I know they played last season, these same two teams, and Giannis went out the very first game. And so obviously, it looks like another non-full strength Milwaukee team, but hopefully they can get to the first round, because I'd love to see Dame out there, and playing playoff basketball. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I saw a red stat since Dame's been out, Giannis is averaging over 10 assists a game, which is pretty impressive for a power forward, center, wherever you want to say what Giannis is. So he's definitely stepped up his game, and I think it's going to be an interesting series with the Pacers. I think Giannis has some stuff to prove as far as a player. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. It's obviously the 4-5 matchup. Indiana will have home court, but I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's another one of those potentially 7-game series. So should be a good one. Any other injuries that were kind of out there?
Wanted to update Lakers Maxi Kleber, right? So we got him in the trade with Luka, which is kind of like an afterthought when we had the trade. It's like, okay, we got Luka, one of the Morris twins, and we got Kleber. Right. So then you're like, whatever. You're not even thinking about those guys. But he had a fracture in his foot, in which he had surgery. This was in January 25th was the last game he played. So he is roughly 10 weeks-ish right now, going on or 11. So I think he's been progressing well. We've been seeing some videos of him shooting threes, and he's on court. They haven't really specified if he's doing any like 1-on-1, 5-on-5, 5-on-0 or anything like that, but you definitely see him in shooting drills. the most interesting point that they for the Lakers is that they put him on the active roster for the playoffs.
Yep.
So they know he is coming back at some point. You just don't know when. Um, if I had to be a betting person on this, I would bet that once he reaches that 12-week mark, which is usually the typical um, timeline for, say, a foot fracture with a surgery, they want to make sure everything's secure in there. I think he'll have a chance to be on and the active roster, right, and kind of suit up. So I think that could play dividends for the Lakers kind of moving forward to be able to get a shooting big that can stretch the floor, especially with the Lakers being small at this point. They just have Jackson Hayes on the active roster, and they have Alex Lynn, who's Alex Lynn. Yeah, I don't think he's going to play that much. And then the other two centers that they had, Koloko and Jameson, are on two-way contracts and are not going to be converted for the playoffs. So
Right.
that leaves the Lakers with a big void at center, or at least a five, and Cleaver can kind of fill that role at the stretch five. I think in my opinion, I think when he does come back, he will find a way to get 5-10 minutes a game. And then depending on how he does, he might be a big factor kind of moving forward there. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was Maxi Kleber. He was definitely a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah.
Obviously, if he does play, we'll see like at what capacity, right? And
Yeah.
we know that again is going to be probably later on in the playoffs. And so, yeah, he's big. He's like 6'10", 6'11", right? In terms of
Yeah.
height, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I remember like when I saw the Luka trade February 1st, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Kleber's injury. And I was kind of like, damn, like, okay, like he's a stretch big. He's actually pretty damn good defensively and he
Yeah.
can shoot the three ball. And so I was excited to get him, but then I quickly learned that he may
So
not be playing right. And so obviously I had to shut those happy thoughts like down. And so I think if we are going to see a lot of him, I don't know if that's like the most amazing sign, but I also think if he can get those 5-10 minutes a game, as you said, kind of prove that he can be out there and that he's like, in shape, right? He's obviously, I'm assuming, had to been off his feet because he's had foot surgery. And I do think about last season. So he did get hurt in the first round against Dallas. I'm sorry, Dallas versus Clippers.
mm,
He missed most of the West or all the Western Conference playoffs. He came back against Boston and he
wasn't the same.
really, yeah, he wasn't the same player. I remember it was like, oh, that's pretty big. They're getting him back, and so I think he's going to be a key contributor. So, like I said, kind of glad to see him potentially be back. But obviously, I'd hope to just, in terms of like the capacity of how much he's going to play, um, I'm sure we're going to fill it out. We're going to see if he's truly healthy. And then, hey, if he can hit a couple of threes a game and play some defense out there against some other bigs, you can sign me up for that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he can prove to be a little difference maker in the playoffs. Let's just hope he gets cleared and continues on his healthy path right now.
Absolutely.
And then we touched on Morant's injury tonight. So it looked like he suffered an ankle sprain, kind of the typical one where you're just kind of coming down on somebody's shoe and your ankle just turns quickly this way. He was able to return, but just did not look like himself. He didn't have the same explosiveness. More than likely, probably taped up the ankle during the probably transition between the fourth quarter and all that stuff. My concern just moving forward is just how does he respond tomorrow? Does it swell up? Typical timelines are out the window because we're in the playoffs, right? If he had a grade 1, 2, or 3, doesn't really matter at this point. He just has to be able to try to tolerate pain, and the main thing will he be able to get out there on Friday and actually not have pain? Probably not, right?
Right.
So he's going to have to gut it out, and then more likely have some support, whether it's braces or tape or anything like that. So I think that's going to be a difference for the Grizzlies going into Friday is Ja's health. If he's not 100%, I think their chances are slimmer against whoever the 9-10 winner is. So hopefully he responds in the morning and it's not too bad, right? So it happens. You get the adrenaline running, you tweak it, but the way he was kind of walking and just didn't really want to put weight on it, it wasn't encouraging for the next couple of days. So I'll check back in on that tomorrow. I'm sure we'll get some updates, and then I'll kind of let everybody know in the Twitter world.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking he hung in there tonight because he was like hoping to God that Grizzlies could just pull this out and they'd have a few days of rest and not play till Sunday. But unfortunately, they lost. They play Friday. We just spoke about how if they do win, they're going to have another game like 36 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, things are just the Grizzlies are struggling, but they need a healthy Morant to make a difference. And I'm sure him out there, he's going to give it his all, and I'm sure he's going to do everything he can to be out there. But it will remain to be seen if he's going to help or hurt the team, right, with his injury. So, but hopefully he feels better, and hopefully he's at as close to like 80, 90% as possible so that we can see a good game.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that wraps up our new segment called Something Happened Today. Where we talk about all the injuries around the league and the impact on their teams. So that leaves us with maybe a couple playoff previews here.
Yeah. We got, I think, obviously later in the week, we got some more games. We kind of want to talk a little bit more in depth. Obviously, we kind of touched on Golden State and Houston. We touched on Boston and Orlando. And just to give like a little bit of like kind of stats and like historic meaning of Boston and Orlando. So first off, the season series is 2-1. And in today's day and age, like I feel the season series, like I think even in the past, it didn't mean a whole lot. And I think it's even less now. Orlando won it 2-1, and it's like I start looking at the rosters, right, of those games, and I see like for example, one of Orlando's wins, like Boston, none of their starters played. And so it's kind of hard to gauge it that way. But in terms of like all time in the playoffs, so Orlando, they played 3 times, and Orlando leads the all-time series 2-1. So the first one I could think of is when Shaq was in Orlando and he like basically closed the Boston Garden, and they beat them. And then the most recent was 2010 when Boston beat Orlando in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that's when the Lakers and Celtics played in the epic 7-game series in the finals. So that's kind of like just a little bit of add a little bit of color to that playoff series, which we kind of went over a little bit. What do you want to hit up? You want to hit up Knicks and Pistons? I know we talked about Pacers and Bucks a little bit.
Yeah, how about we just go over one little series, and then I think on when we come on again, when it's all finalized, we'll kind of give a little preview and prediction on those games there a little bit. But yeah, I wanted to get into the Knicks and Pistons. I just think there is going to be some fireworks in this series. Like I don't want to say that the Pistons are going to go in there in game 1 and win. I think they're going to go in there and just like really try to send a message to the Knicks.
Okay.
I don't know if they win this series, but I think they're going to make a hell of a series, and it's going to be a 6, possibly 7-game series with the Detroit Pistons and New York Knicks. I just like what Cade Cunningham is doing. I love what JB Bickerstaff is doing with Detroit. And I like their bigs, the physicality of the bigs, because, you got to think about Cat, right? He's not one to be physical down low. He's going to stay out on the wing and really try to stretch those guys out, which I think they have a little bit more difficulty with trying to guard like a big spaced person, right? Like a Cat. So those guys are going to have to hustle and really get out the Cat, and because he's going to want to shoot the 3. But if anything, if they get into Cat a little bit, like get under his skin a little bit, get more physical with him, I think that's where you can win a game, or at least upset him early, which will give you the momentum moving forward in the series.
Yeah, I mean, just before I kind of follow up, so the season series, so the Pistons, they won 3 out of 4 games, so they won the season series 3-1, right? I know we just talked about how it's not important, but that for this round, it's important. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, the Knicks won the first game, and then Pistons won the last three. Not a,
Hmm.
surprisingly enough, like these are two, like Pistons haven't been good in a while, but these teams have also only faced each other 3 times in the playoffs. The most recent coming in 1992. So they battled in 1990 as well. So that was kind of like
Yeah.
the end of like the Bad Boys era with obviously Isaiah, Rodman, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer, and all those boys, right? And so they haven't had as much of a rivalry, I guess you can say, as of late. But I think this is kind of like a rejuvenation of that.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see the Knicks, like we know how it is, right? These guys are going to play like 45, 46, 47 minutes a game. Our boy, our
Oh
Thibodeau.
man.
And
Yeah.
so I think with Detroit's physicality, I mean, like they're going to be like, hey, like, sure, you want to play like 46 minutes a game? I don't know if Cat will, but we're going to rough you up. And I think, like you said, they're going to frustrate him a little bit. Um, I mean, I would still give like most likely like from a talent standpoint, like the Knicks the edge, but
For
it
sure.
would not be a shock if Pistons pull this off and take that game 1
Yeah.
and really apply the pressure on New York for game 2
Yeah.
to get a must win game. I don't know, like Knicks, like I feel they had a really good playoff run last year. Injuries kind of hurt them. And yes, they were the 3 seed, and we know what the 3 seed could potentially mean. But I just feel like, I don't know, like they just didn't take that next step.
Yeah.
And so maybe, hey, obviously with Brunson, he was out for a while. He's back. Maybe they have a great series and then they have a clash with Boston, which I think would be fun. But I don't think they did themselves favors with this matchup. This is like a tough 3-6 matchup for sure.
Yeah. I mean, when you would have, if you would have told me, I mean, when everybody felt that way this season, when you get Karl Anthony Towns, right, and you get Mikal Bridges,
But
right,
yep.
and you're like, hmm, that team sounds like a team that should be much better than last year, right? So it's like it's just a little surprising that, I mean, even though they still finished as the third seed, they just don't
They were
have the
last year.
same type of. In my opinion, it's probably more when it comes down to the defensive end. They're just not the same defensive team as they were last year, right? So when you lose Hartenstein and you lose, Dante, which was just a gritty, like hit the three, but also just be all up in guys' face and play really hard nosed defense. That hurt them, right? So you traded some offense for some defense, right?
Yep.
So and to me, that clashes with what Tibbs wants to do. So I think he had difficulty this year just trying to get that mesh of players that he wants to play. Um, from an offensive standpoint, they're fine, right? But from a defensive standpoint, they're just a totally different team. And I think that kind of just got in the way this year, and they kind of had to figure it out. And I think towards the end of the season, they started getting it back a little bit and making some headway in the standings. But yeah, I'm a little afraid for them with this Pistons series. So
Yeah.
I'll save my prediction for when we kind of do the predictions. But I'm a little afraid there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they, like you said, they had a great season last year. They got a couple new like great basketball players, but we know
Yeah,
there's obviously an adjustment period too. It's tough to just really like change the construction of your team. It was a little bit reconstructed, and so
yeah,
you gotta, in terms of like they were the 2 seed last year, 3 seed this year, so there was some struggles because of that. But
yeah.
yeah, I think unfortunately we're going to be seeing a lot of Dante DiVincenzo if you're on the Lakers side, right? The series coming
Sure.
up, and I think
Yeah.
he's going to be an X factor for sure, which I know we're going to extremely get into later in the week. But yeah, I think it's going to be one of those fun series, one of those knock him out, drag him out, last man standing type of series, and I'm really looking forward to it.
100%. Yeah, and you know what I was thinking right now before we kind of sign off here? I think we got a new segment. It's gonna be called Stats with EMAC. So I know you guys have been, following us for a little bit and kind of tuning in, and we appreciate it. But Eric B. Mack has been bringing some impressive stats through the last 2 weeks here. So I think bringing that on as a little segment there to kind of get some numbers and stats on certain situations especially going into the playoffs is going to be super important. So that might be a little segment next episode.
Yeah, we might have to trickle some in. Hey, I just want to add some context. It's just funny that I wanted to mention, don't trust. I was doing some research. Always trust the gut. I was doing a little bit of chat GPT, to be honest. And I knew this already. I knew Lakers had faced Minnesota twice so far historically in the playoffs. And I put how many series it was kind of testing it out. How many series have the Lakers and the Timberwolves played? And it said that they played in 2014. And I'm like, Lakers didn't even make the playoffs in 2014. So just out there, don't always trust AI, because there are times it can get things wrong. So that's why I give some stats. Those are just kind of I do a little bit of research, but that's just me obviously watching ball for a lot of years and kind of remembering things. So again, I just hope that it adds context to our conversations.
Yeah, AI is not always right, but I'll tell you, my man EMAC, this dude's got a historian brain when it comes to the NBA. So we're going to keep bringing it with that and kind of get into all that throughout our shows. So we will probably be on towards the end of the week, probably after the Friday game, so we can kind of update what the official playoffs will look like, and then kind of get some predictions and kind of preview, especially the Lakers-Minnesota game on Saturday. So more than likely, you guys will see us on Friday. Absolutely. Anything else, EMAC?
No, just you. Even though it's playing time, and I feel like Sunday was the start of the playoff season. It's that time. We saw 2 exciting ass games, and I think it's just a sign of things to come for the rest of the NBA playoffs. And we're gonna graciously come on most nights and cover it for you guys and give our analysis and input. And definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. And obviously remember to follow us on all the socials, Instagram. I know the doc mentioned last episode that we're now streaming right on what is it, doc? Spotify.
Yes, so we are if you missed the live show, we are going to be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's under the Hoops Rehab Show, so just search that. I will be always sending out the links to the podcast when they are posted, but we will try to have the podcast posted right after the show, and then and obviously you'll be able to download it in the morning. We always ask if you can share, download, follow, rate us, comment, just so we can try to get out to the masses a little bit and continue what we're doing. But we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we look forward to this playoffs. I mean, nothing better than NBA playoffs, I'll tell you that. So,
yes, sir.
All right. Hoops Rehab team is out on a Tuesday night.
Peace out, guys.